Okay, so in life we all make choices, some good and some bad, and in the tech space that's even more important. In 2026, for productivity and students alike, there's loads of different devices available, and generally speaking, in my opinion, iPad 11th generation is the best device for most people, and here's exactly why. What's up guys, those Men's Tech back with a video. Got this MTR top here, you can buy it on my store down below, which I'll link down below in the description, and this is going to be my iPad 11th generation review. Since 2010, Apple have been innovating in the iPad space. I actually do have the first generation iPad somewhere, and I do remember using and loving it to use, and ever since then I switched to a laptop, funny enough, because I thought a laptop was more practical, which in some ways it is, and you can check out my review up here with the MacBook Air. But overall, I have never missed, and I still don't miss, now I have an iPad, the iPad 11th generation's versatility, usability and more. Each incremental update has given the iPad 11th generation a good baseline performance level, I think, in my opinion, with lots of features that are actually really helpful to use and that you actually use on a day-to-day basis, making the iPad 11th generation even greater than it already is. First up, the design. So this is a school iPad, just a little disclaimer, it's not my iPad, I can still have every reason to review it because it's such an amazing iPad anyway. And yeah, the design of this is really great. We have the typical aluminum design we've had for loads of time on the iPads in general, and this embodies the whole case, which means it's pretty strong. I always recommend using an external keyboard with this iPad to increase versatility, as well as an Apple Pencil, but we'll get onto that a bit later. Like most Apple products these days, the iPad 11th generation is made of 100% recycled aluminium, meaning that this device is strong to hold. I've never actually been able to get the iPad out of its case, but from what I can tell using the iPad, it's a really strong, sturdy device that definitely looks like it's going to last the next 5 or 6 years. It's also got the chip and the performance to back that up, which we'll talk about later, but it's also got the chips and the performance to back that up, which means it should last another 3-4 years at least. The iPad 11th generation feels what it's worth. The whole design screaming premium in your face. And this is great because you want a device that feels like it's going to last its lifetime, or the lifetime of the device itself, and this device really does feel like it's it. I think the aluminum design really just makes this device more premium, and there's so many reasons why you should buy it based on just the design itself. The back of the device consists of the most important things in an iPad really, being the cameras. More on this later, but pretty much the camera is a great camera, and it's centered on the back left part of the device in a very small camera cutout. But the quality is really good, and we'll talk more about it later, but overall the design of the iPad 11th generation is clear, and you get to know once you get to know the iPad, it's actually a really nice iPad to use, and it's really premium as well. So lots of happy things to say about the design of the iPad. So in the Apple lineup, Apple spoiled us with a plethora of devices available for your own productivity. Whether you're a student learning how to use technology for the first time and you're not sure what to buy, or even just someone who's now working and looking for an iPad to boost their productivity whilst working. For students, genuinely, this is probably the best option you can buy. Especially with that Apple student discount you get if you're a student, you can actually get this iPad for about £499, I think it's £349 actually. I put the price up here, and that's really great to students starting out who want to get an iPad that's relatively affordable and does everything you need it to. Especially with an Apple Pencil, the overall experience is intuitive, clean, and has a really nice overall feel. Using the iPad OS 26.3 is a real breeze. There's been some controversy about the new versions of iOS or iPad OS being weird with liquid glass, but I've noticed that there have been little no slowdowns when using this iPad to the maximum, and I can really push this iPad as far as I want it to go, which is really good. The iPad experience in itself is really unique, with the iPad boasting having iOS 26 or iPad OS 26.3, meaning we've got so many cool features with new updates coming from or with iOS 26.4 in the near future. So basically this can be used for pretty much anything. Whilst making little notes in class for your projects, for example, like I'm doing a project at the moment where I predominantly use my laptop, but I would normally use my iPad to this because it's more than capable. Or even like just using or doing art with Procreate with an Apple Pencil, which makes the iPad experience even better. It really is a breeze for this iPad, and I really think that this iPad can be used for professional work, which I'll come to a little bit later in the video. Apple took a leaf out of their older technologies to put it in the new iPad, and we have the A16 bionic chip in this device, meaning that we really get great performance overall, but I'll talk more about the performance a bit later in the video. But what you need to know right now is that the iPad is a breeze to use. The iPad experience is amazing. As a first-time Apple user using an iPad in the first place, it really is an amazing experience that you really can't get enough of once you start. And the whole software and the synergy between the software and the hardware is almost perfect with this iPad, and I've noticed no problems whatsoever. I must say the M1 MacBook Air still holds up really well for heavy tasks, but overall I would say the iPad 11th Gen is still worthwhile and is a great iPad for almost most people. So next up, well, the most important thing about the iPad is performance. And I'm telling you, like, this iPad is really pulling fish in its weight compared to the big dogs of the iPad world, being the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. Compared to those devices, this iPad is still really doing great. Compared to the M1 MacBook Air, I would say that this is slightly underpowered. I think I do prefer my M1 MacBook Air for more heavy tasks, like I use my M1 MacBook Air for everything else that I don't use my iPad for, being video editing. And I've tried video editing on my iPad before. I think it's definitely possible and actually works really well. But I do prefer my M1 MacBook Air for more heavy tasks such as this, because I think it's just better, it's able to cope with high quality video editing and export videos a bit faster than my iPad does. Just the facts. I really do like to use the iPad as my second device, because if I'm writing a script on my iPhone, for example, and editing on my Mac, I can have the iPad up watching a film like Top Gun Maverick or any film I like to watch on my iPad, and that's great. We have a great screen with this iPad. We have a really good screen with this iPad as well, with good colours, but there's actually some negatives with that, so I'll comment that later. But generally speaking, like, I would say I would use a second device. You can probably definitely use it as your primary device. It's got enough power. But because I'm so used to using a Mac, I definitely prefer that in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, and honestly, there's loads of people who use iPad as their primary device, and with this iPad, they shouldn't have a problem. Now, compared to the iPad Air and Pro, you may see this as underpowered. But as I said at the beginning of the video, for most people, this is okay. And like for the majority of average users, this iPad actually works really, really well, and they shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. But for the Pro users, of course, it's just in the title, it's the name of the product. Get the iPad Pro or the iPad Air. It's got more power simply and should do a better job overall. But generally speaking, the iPad Air the iPad 11th generation is the top of the top in terms of what most users need. For example, my current iPhone 12 has an A14 Bionic chip, 2 generations older than the current in the iPad 11th generation, and 4 GB of RAM, and it's still holding up really well. So I don't think there's not going to be too many problems with performance in this case. So even in tough situations, I don't really find the iPad even heating up. It is really a great chip that we have inside this iPad 11th generation. No Apple Intelligence, because we need an iPhone, an A16 Bionic chip and more to get this, but like overall I think the iPad 11th generation has a good performance, and like you can run most professional apps really well. And in most circumstances, I'm really happy with the performance of the iPad. The highlight of this device really is the screen, because this is what we look at 24/7. And in my opinion, Apple have taken some major cuts where they really shouldn't have, generally speaking, with the screen here, because we've got an LCD display. To explain in simple terms, an LCD display is a much worse version of an OLED display, with OLED displays, generally speaking, having much richer colors and even better AMOLED displays are typically brighter than OLED displays and have much better performance. So it's a real shame that we've got an LCD display, but again, for most people, this should be okay. Even an iPhone 12 has a better display than an iPad 11th generation, which really means Apple have put the eggs in different baskets to see which works best, and really they put the egg in the wrong basket in this context, because it just didn't work. I think the display is low quality, you can tell. It's still very good, but it's just low quality than what I'm used to having an M1 MacBook Air with a much better display and an iPhone with a much better display as well. But it should be fine for most people. Again, the keyword is most people in this video, because for most people, this iPad is perfectly fine. It even has a peak brightness of half of the iPhone 12 and about the same as the M1 MacBook Air, and this is not really good. But in sunny conditions, I wouldn't even try this, because you won't be able to see this display. But in most conditions inside, it should be fine, and it should be fine again for most people. I'm going to be filming a day in the life with the iPad 11th generation in a very future video. So if you haven't seen that, if you want to see that video, make sure to subscribe down below and like this video if you want to see the video, because I'm making more day in the life videos and tech and lifestyle videos just like this one. The screen is really a letdown in my opinion, as we've seen Apple make lots of better screens in the past, even on iPads, so it means it can happen again, and it's a real shame that Apple has cut corners with making a good screen with this iPad. Now, something quite important that I don't normally talk about in an iPad video, you shouldn't, because you're not gonna, unless you're a niche person or you use niche products like I do, like an iPad, then you don't really know what it's like to be able to use a camera with an iPad. That doesn't make sense, right? You only use what's in your pocket, being your phone, to take photos. As a film student though, an iPad having a good camera is super important. In my opinion, I love the cameras in the iPad 11th generation. We have a 12 megapixel camera, it's just solid, it's pretty good. It's about the same as an iPhone 12's camera, and generally speaking, it just works. It's like using a teleprompter but filming at the same time, and if you're into film school, you know what that means. I can definitely see myself in plenty of situations where I actually need my iPad to film a previs, which is basically what you're gonna film for a film, but not actually the thing, just a practice round to get the shot types and things like that. And having a teleprompter, having a screen to see what you're filming, and having a good camera, in my opinion, for my use case, is really important. So overall, in this 2026, this iPad is really great. It's a really balanced iPad without the big features which you don't really need, and it's got the right cuts where it needs to, and overall it's a good iPad for the price of about £400. If you do want to buy it, make sure to use the links down below. It really helps me out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys very soon in my days in life. Plenty of videos coming up soon, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.